Fort Wayne, Indiana, the man accused of killing two teen girls, Abigail Williams and Liberty German, in the woods of Delphi more than 7 years ago, is on trial. The jury has been selected, and shocking new evidence alleged by the defense has already been revealed in court. We are live from the trial of Richard Allen. Good evening and welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Julia Janae, filling in for Vinnie Politan tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. We have a lot to get to. We have a lot of big cases and trials that we've been covering here on Court TV. Some are beginning and others are nearing their conclusion. And we're starting this hour with a true crime case that's really one of the biggest cases that we've covered here at Court TV. It's a cold case that turned into a, at times, controversial prosecution, the trial of Richard Allen. He's the man who's accused of killing two teenage girls in Indiana, Abigail Williams and Liberty German. And this all happened back in 2017. Even though their bodies were discovered just a day after they went missing, it was 5 years before this case saw an arrest. And this lack of a resolution sparked a persistent element in this case. That's the public distrust. Because since the beginning, many issues have been raised about this investigation, about management of this case, interviews that were deleted, sketches that were kept from the public, attorneys being forced off of the case, complaints being raised by the public and Allen's defense team. Both of those entities demanded transparency in this case. And then in an explosive announcement, the defense for Richard Allen revealed their theory of the case, one that only seemed to pour gasoline on the burning fire of public skepticism. Not only was Richard Allen not the killer, the defense claimed, they said that members of a ritualistic Odinist cult were responsible. Now, months before this trial, Judge Fran Gull made a series of rulings that only seemed to exacerbate this distrust. And that included a motion that prohibited the defense from presenting that cult theory evidence to a jury. So no mention of Odinism, no talk of ritualistic sacrifices. This was to the dismay of those defense attorneys. Judge Gull also outlawed electronics in the courtroom. So not only are no cameras allowed in the courtroom, at times we're used to that, but Judge Gull also prohibited any use of audio recording devices or even phones or laptops. It's almost like it's inside of a federal courthouse, because this means that the reporters inside of this state courtroom must take notes the old-fashioned way, with a pen and paper. So we're faced with this problem. How will we know what's going on inside of this courtroom in Indiana? Well, Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald is here. She's there in Indiana joining us live. She's been inside of the courtroom all day for day 2 of jury selection, taking those handwritten notes. So Barbara, you are our next best thing in this situation. Set the scene for me. Tell me about what it was like today and what major moments have stood out to you.
Well, we do have a jury. A jury is seated. We have 12 jurors and 4 alternates. Tomorrow, court is going to be dark, and they'll be back on Thursday to be sworn in front of Richard Allen. But as you mentioned, we are writing notes by hand, and one of the things that's been really interesting to see is how the media and even some of the podcasters are working together to compare notes. And did you hear that? And is that what they said? And did they say 4? Did they say 2? And making sure that we get it right so that we can share the most accurate information with the public, since we don't have any way of recording it and rewinding it if we have a question about something that somebody said. But again, 12 jurors selected, 4 alternates, and we did get to hear some mini opening statements the last 2 days from both the prosecution and the defense in this case. They asked for that privilege from the judge. She granted that. And so they each got 5 minutes yesterday and 5 minutes today to talk to the jury about what this case is about for them. And one of the most explosive things that we heard during that mini opening statement from the defense today, Andrew Baldwin said in open court to those potential jurors that a hair, or rather hair, found in Abby Williams' hand does not match Richard Allen. Now, he didn't elaborate on that point at all. I imagine we're going to be hearing a lot about that at trial, but hair that was found in her hand does not match Richard Allen. They didn't say if they know who it does match or if that is an unanswered question in this case. Now, another thing that the defense said, and they talked with the jurors quite a bit about, is that they are going to be going after, respectfully but aggressively, after the police investigation, which they feel was not complete. They feel that it wasn't fair to all of the people that they looked at, that there were many people, according to the defense, that should have been investigated further, but for some reason, law enforcement cleared them or moved on to other people. We're going to be hearing more about that once we get to trial. The prosecutor, though, said that we're going to be hearing a lot about those confessions, the 60-plus confessions that Richard Allen allegedly made while he was incarcerated in a maximum security prison. The prosecutor called those unsolicited and unprovoked admissions. Now, the defense has been telling us for a while that they are basically the rantings of a crazy person, that he was psychotic at the time, he was experiencing delusions, and that was why he made these admissions. And to give an example of one of those, Andrew Baldwin said in his mini opening statement today that Richard Allen confessed to killing his grandchildren and his entire family. But of course, Richard Allen does not have grandchildren and his family wasn't killed. So the defense is going to be arguing that there's false information there, that there is information that is absolutely not accurate and relevant to this case. The prosecution, of course, says those are the admissions of somebody who wanted to clear his conscience. So we're going to be getting a lot more information about that when we get to trial, Julia.
Barbara, that's a lot of huge information for day two
Yes.
of jury selection. We haven't even gotten to opening statements in this case. I love hearing that the journalists are working together because it can be daunting trying to transcribe things and know exactly what was said. So I've seen that happen inside of courtrooms, and that's great to hear that it's happening in this situation. That's really unlikely and not ideal for people who are covering this case. The strand of hair, that's huge information, but I understand there was a motion in limine filed by the state earlier today that was big. Break that down for us and how that could impact things going forward.
Yes, so people who have been following this case are very familiar with the two sketches in the case. There is the first sketch that was released in 2017 of the older man on the left of your screen wearing the cap. He's got some facial hair and a hoodie. That was the first sketch released, and that was plastered everywhere. Law enforcement took that to Dr. Phil, to the Megyn Kelly show, to CrimeCon. It was on posters and billboards. And then in 2019, in April of 2019, we got the New Direction press conference. And the sketch on the right of your screen was released at that time. There was a lot of confusion from law enforcement at the time what the message was. Are these two people that are being looked at? Is it one person? Is the older sketch no longer relevant? And eventually they told us that the younger sketch was who they were looking for, that they believed he could have been as young as 18 years old at the time that the crime happened. And one of the witnesses allegedly described him as having a youthful appearance, which is depicted in that sketch. Well, now the state is saying they don't want the jurors to see these sketches. They don't want the defense to be able to present these sketches at trial because they are not related to the identification of Richard Allen as a suspect, that they were simply an investigative tool, and that they are not relevant at this point. And so potentially the defense was going to introduce those as a way of perhaps impeaching some of the witnesses. One of the witnesses we know who's going to testify was a woman who was walking the trails that day. She is believed to be the last person to have seen Abby and Libby alive before they encountered that man on the bridge. The timing works out where she was arriving at the trails just minutes before Abby and Libby were dropped off. This woman claims she walked out to the bridge, saw a man on the bridge that matched the description of the video that Libby had captured on her cell phone, and that as the woman was leaving the bridge and walking back towards her car, she passed two young girls who she believes were Abby and Libby. And so it's possible that those sketches were going to be used as a way of impeaching her testimony. But again, the state is asking the judge to not allow that. Those motions are going to be heard on Thursday morning. The jury is going to return on Thursday. They'll be sworn in front of Richard Allen, and then they will be excused to be transported to their hotel, which will be near Delphi. There are no real hotels in Delphi or the immediate area. They're probably going to be 20 to 30 minutes away. They're not letting us know where they're going to be housed, obviously, for their safety and to protect their privacy. But those motions should be happening on Thursday morning. And then on Friday morning, we are going to begin with opening statements in Carroll County, the county where this happened. Nearly 7 years ago, these girls went out for that walk, disappeared, and were found dead the following day. A lot of people are going to be watching this. The media and the people who are attending these days, this jury selection and the trial, we are trying to get as much information into our notebooks as we possibly can to bring that to you as accurately as we can. Because other than a transcript that might be available at the end of this trial, there will not be any audio recordings released. There will not be any pictures, any videos, any electronic transmission of this trial at all, Julia.
And Barbara, we're so fortunate that you are there. You're inside of the courtroom. You can share with us what you can about what's going on. But of course, there's a lot of disappointment to go around that a trial that's this big, that was so carefully followed, is not going to be able to be shown. I want to ask you about this jury's sequestration, because I got to tell you, I was surprised when I heard that this was happening for this case. Not that it's not a high profile one, but really a lot of attorneys lean away from asking for sequestration, especially in a trial that's as long as this one. What can you tell us about the backstory of why they decided on this?
I think it was because there was an effort to change the venue in this case. Delphi is a very small community. Carroll County is a very small county, only about 20,000 people in the entire county. And so there was a motion made to change the venue. They decided instead to bring the jurors in from Allen County, which is why I'm here right now. Jury selection has been happening here the last 2 days. But those jurors are going to be kept separate. They're going to be kept away from the internet, from publicity. Their identities will be protected as much as is possible while they are hearing this trial. Now, another thing, initially this trial was scheduled to begin on Monday, as it did, and continue through November 15th. That's 5 weeks. Today we heard from the prosecutor as well as the judge that we may be down to about 3 weeks for this trial. So potentially they're not going to be sequestered as long as we initially thought they were. But the trial, the judge did say, is still scheduled through November 15th, which is a Friday, so it could very well go that long.
Okay, for the jury's sake, I'm happy to hear that, because that is a lot. Barbara McDonald, thank you so much for all of your reporting. We'll continue to check in with you throughout this trial. For now, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us, trial attorney, anchor and host of Once Upon a Crime in Hollywood, Kelly Hyman is with us. Also, we have trial attorney and former police lieutenant Rick King, and Deputy Public Defender for Los Angeles County, Philip Dubé, is with us. Great to see you all on this Tuesday evening. Kelly, let me start with you. Big news on this strand of hair found in the hand of one of the victims that doesn't match Richard Allen's. I'm surprised that it hadn't gotten out before in terms of information that the defense has shared. But your thoughts on that news, especially as we're going into this trial?
Very strong evidence. Ultimately, the jury is going to make a determination of whether he's guilty or innocent, but that gives reasonable doubt. Now, it's important to remember that the prosecution has the burden to prove the case, but the fact that it was someone else's hair, and who was it and how did she get the hair, I definitely could see that playing a key part in this case.
So, Rick King, we've got these confessions, alleged confessions that the prosecution said these jurors are going to hear. So it sounds like they probably have some type of audio recording rather than just the words of some of these officials there inside of the jail. But this mixture with elements of his grandchildren that he doesn't have, family being killed, your thoughts on how the defense can use that to perhaps try and protect Richard Allen?
I mean, I think it's obvious, and from some of the information that I've learned, that they've gotten these from, some of them are phone recordings between Richard and his wife that they've recorded him allegedly confessing to her. Now, if those confessions are mixed with some hallucination type information that he's provided, I mean, the defense is going to be able to talk about how he was really incompetent at the time he's making these, or under the influence of whatever psychotic episode he may have been going through. But just looking at him now and looking how he looked then, you can tell that there's always going to be a certain amount of stress on when you're incarcerated that way. So I anticipate that they'll use that to say that, hey, those confessions are nothing but the ramblings of someone who was under the pressure of being incarcerated for all this time.
Yeah, they've got a number of them, so I wonder if that mixture is in all of them. But Philip Dubé, it's the jury that's going to have to make that determination, and we've got a sequestered jury. You've got this gathering of a jury in one county. They're going to hear the case in another county. My question is, I understand perhaps why they need to have them in a hotel, provide them with food, transport them, all of that, because they're in a different county. But did they have to go so far as to cut them off from perhaps their family, all internet and everything while they're in this trial?
Did they have to? No. But if you're going to go the distance of drawing a jury from out of county to avoid pretrial publicity so that the rights of Mr. Allen are not prejudiced in any way by all the hoopla, if you will, from the trial itself and the pretrial proceedings, then why not go the extra mile and sequester everybody so you cannot cry foul later on appeal should he be convicted? It's the best way to go about it. I mean, they're spending the money anyway. They've drawn a jury pool from out of county. What's the point of drawing them from out of county, schlepping them into another county, only to pollute them with all the media attention, all the news reports, all the social media, bloggers type commenting on the internet, if they're not insulated from that sufficiently. So I think by holding them up in a hotel, cutting them off from all internet access, cellular phones, publications, is a surefire way to make sure that they remain impartial and neutral.
And they are headed to their hotels so that they can start hearing those opening statements in this case. We are going to have the latest here on Court TV.